At precisely 3:15 local time, under an ink-black sky over the Persian Gulf, an F-35C, callsign Viper 1, streaked in stealth configuration, maintaining absolute radio silence. It was approaching the Iranian coast, 24 kilometers away. Its target, OGAB-44, a $2.5 billion underground airbase Iran had carved deep into granite mountains. Suddenly, the radar warning receiver in its helmet shrieked. 6 hard-lock signals from S-400 Triumph and Bavar 373 fire control radars simultaneously illuminated the world's most advanced stealth fighter. This was theoretically impossible. Preliminary cyber attacks should have blinded Iran's early warning systems, but the opposite was happening. In just 90 seconds, 40 Syad 4B hypersonic missiles would leave their launchers, turning America's billion-dollar pride into scrap metal over the Persian Gulf. However, Iran made a fatal error. While they concentrated all their efforts on the F-35, they were unaware that 300 meters away, at an altitude of 13,716 meters, an aircraft resembling a commercial airliner, callsign Ghost Rider, was silently activating a secret weapon. This technology, until now never revealed, was the trump card that would decide the fate of the Middle East that night. What kind of weapon is this? How could a slow, commercial-looking plane possibly turn the tide of battle? The answer, which we will unveil in the next 13 minutes, will fundamentally change your perception of warfare. Welcome to Border Watch Daily, where we analyze the strategies redefining modern warfare. Iran's confidence that night was not blind arrogance. It rested on a concrete fortress and the most spectacular deception of the 21st century. The American target, OGAB-44 base, was not just a simple airstrip. It was an underground city capable of withstanding nuclear bunker buster bombs, housing over 200 new variants of Shahed 136 drones, Su-35 Flanker E fighters recently transferred from Russia, and a stockpile of medium-range ballistic missiles ready to be fired to clear the way for F-35s that night. 48 hours prior, the U.S. Cyber Command, U.S. Cybercom, had discreetly launched a large-scale digital offensive. Millions of lines of malicious code had been injected into Iran's national power grid and radar network. On Pentagon screens, the lights indicating Iranian air defense systems turned red one by one, signaling their paralysis. The United States believed it had completely blinded its adversary before a single shot was even fired. But they were wrong to underestimate Iran. Iran had anticipated this maneuver. What the United States had attacked proved to be a digital honeypot, a simulated system set up by Iran as bait for the true defense system protecting OGAB-44 base. Iran had implemented a rudimentary but extremely effective measure: physical isolation, or air gapping. All S-400 and Bavar 373 missile launchers were completely disconnected from the internet and the national power grid. Instead, they operated within a closed internal network, transmitting data via fiber optic cables buried 10 meters deep, rendering them totally immune to any computer virus or remote attack from the United States. Not only had Iran preserved its forces, but it had also modified its hunting tactics. They had deactivated all active radars, which emit radio waves and are easily detected and destroyed by American missiles. Instead, they had secretly deployed an enhanced Kuga passive sensor network, combined with extremely powerful electro-optical reconnaissance systems scattered across the peaks of the Zagros Mountains. This system does not emit waves. It listens to atmospheric turbulence and detects the tiny infrared signatures of the F-35's engines against the cold backdrop of the night sky. Viper 1 was tracked for 20 minutes without even knowing it. Iran waited patiently, maintaining absolute control over electromagnetic emissions. And only when the F-35 entered the kill zone, from which it could no longer turn back, did they activate the S-400 fire control radar to deliver the fatal blow. A perfect trap. Lure the enemy deep, cut off their retreat, and fire. Iran was confident it had trapped the F-35, but they were mistaken. Simultaneously, the latest generation of AGM-88G AARGM-ER anti-radiation missiles left their launchers. They plunged at supersonic speed, riding the very radar waves Iran was projecting at the F-35S to locate and destroy the source. The objective was to force these radar stations to shut down immediately or be annihilated. During the first 5 minutes, this tactic proved highly effective. Target lock signals on the F-35 pilot's screens completely vanished. The Iranian radio communication system seemed paralyzed by high-power jamming. The AGM-88G missiles slammed into transmission sites in distant mountain valleys, causing massive explosions that shook the mountainsides. The F-35C squadron regained its composure, continued to penetrate deep into the territory, and prepared to approach the coordinates to drop GBU-53 Stormbreaker smart glide bombs into the underground tunnels. American commanders in Qatar began to breathe a sigh of relief, convinced that the Growler's electronic warfare technology had taken control of the situation. However, they had underestimated their adversaries' preparations. The sudden silence of Iranian air defenses was not a sign of collapse or fear, but the terrifying military discipline of a trap that had been set. The very moment the American fighter formation reached the point of no return, the true trap was activated. The S-400 radars the Growler squadron had just attacked were nothing more than cheap, disposable decoy emitters. Iran's true defense system, the National Bavar 373 and Khordad 15 missile complexes, remained intact and had not yet been revealed. In fact, they did not use radar for initial guidance, but an electro-optical IRR observation network dispersed on high mountain peaks, transmitting image data directly to an underground command center via fiber optic cable. Because they do not use radio waves to lock onto targets, the Growler's warning devices were completely blind, and the anti-radiation missiles had no emission source to seek and destroy. Suddenly, the night sky was torn by dozens of fiery streaks erupting from mountain crevices. Sayyad 4B interceptor missiles soared to Mach 6. They used inertial guidance based on coordinates preloaded by the optical system and only activated their active radar seeker in the final seconds before impact. The Growler aircraft, busy jamming the radar frequency band, were completely powerless against this thermal imaging guided threat. The two F-35S were forced to break formation, deploy flares, and execute sharp 9G turns to evade the physical missiles. The American attack formation was completely shattered. Worse still, early warning satellites detected the massive hatch of OGUP 44 bays slowly opening. Iran was preparing to launch a barrage of ballistic missiles and drones, precisely as the American formation was in complete chaos. If the United States ordered a retreat now to preserve its aircraft, it would completely expose the Fifth Fleet to a devastating attack from within the mountains. The United States faced its greatest tactical failure in 30 years. It was at this precise moment that the commercial-looking Ghost Rider aircraft emerged from the shadows. The EA-37B Compass Call. While the fighters struggled to avoid missiles, the EA-37B calmly circled at the edge of international airspace, tightly escorted by an RC-135 rivet joint. Unlike the EA-18G Growler, which relies on brute force, the EA-37B is a far more sophisticated assassin, representing cognitive electronic warfare. It does not attempt to jam radars or shoot down missiles. Its target is what Iran considers its most secure asset, its internal communications and command data links. Although Iran uses buried fiber optic cables to prevent interception, they had forgotten a fundamental law of physics. At the signal junction points connecting the underground to mobile missile launchers, the system cannot be completely sealed. Metal connections and signal decoding equipment at the launch site always leak a tiny amount of electromagnetic radiation, known as side-channel emissions. The RC-135 rivet joint, with its array of super-sensitive antennas, picked up this faint heartbeat in the desert. Immediately, the SWORD system-wide open response design, an open response software weapon on the EA-37B, sprang into action, using AI to execute an extremely sophisticated decoy attack. It began inserting phantom packets into Iran's command information flow through these very electromagnetic breaches, silently distorting real-time information. The computer systems of the Iranian missile batteries began receiving firing orders with a 0.5-second latency error, and target coordinate data was shifted by 300 meters from the actual location. This was a perfect non-kinetic solution, using the enemy's own command system against them. Instead of destroying missiles, the United States was blinding Iran's precision guidance system. However, to inject malware into Iran's hermetically sealed defense system with enough signal strength to override the original signal, the EA-37B had to leave the safety zone and fly directly within range of the long-range air defense system. The transmission power of the SWORD system required an approach distance of less than 241.4 kilometers to penetrate Iran's physical security layer. This was an all-or-nothing gamble. The aircraft, converted from a commercial Gulfstream G550 airframe, had no stealth capabilities, a slow subsonic speed, and no physical self-defense weapons. The 7-member crew aboard the EA-37B understood they were turning themselves into easy targets in the sky. As soon as the EA-37B penetrated the danger zone, Iranian passive radar immediately detected this unusual signal change. Iranian commanders in the underground bunker of OGAB-44 were stunned to realize that the real danger was not the stealthy F-35S, but this civilian aircraft lumbering towards them. They immediately ordered a reserve battery of S-300 PMU-2, kept secret until the last minute, to concentrate all its firepower to shoot down the EA-37B. 2, 4, 8, and 6E. 3 missiles left their launchers, tearing through the air at Mach 6 towards the electronic reconnaissance aircraft. At the same moment, the electronic warfare officer aboard the EA-37B activated the full power of the AESA transmitter system on the aircraft's flank. They did not attempt to shoot down the missiles, but instead sent a targeted electronic warfare beam directly at the data link antenna of the missiles and the ground control station, while injecting millions of false coordinate data packets into the OGAB-44 system. The race was now measured in milliseconds. Could the EA-37B hack Iran's fire control system and cause these missiles to lose their target before the warhead exploded and tore the aircraft apart? As the two S-300 missiles were just 26 kilometers from the EA-37B, an impossible distance for a commercial aircraft to evade a miracle occurred. The missile's radar seeker suddenly experienced a severe data conflict. Target designation data from the command center completely contradicted the missile's onboard radar data due to the EA-37B's decoy intervention. The missile's safety system activated its self-destruct mechanism, suspecting it had been hacked. Two harmless fireballs erupted in midair, their shockwaves reaching the fragile G550 fuselage. At this precise moment, Iran's integrated air defense system plunged into complete chaos. Mobile launchers received self-destruct orders or spun aimlessly. Radars lost synchronization, and most critically, the hydraulic control software for OGAV-44's bunker doors froze due to a data conflict error just implanted by the EA-37B, causing the bunker doors to lock in a semi-open position. Taking advantage of these precious 120 seconds of blindness and paralysis, a squadron of F-15EX Eagle II's true bomb trucks approached from the rear at Mach 2.5. They did not aim to destroy the bunker, which was too robust to be completely annihilated, but dropped four 2,268 kilogram GBU 72B bunker buster bombs precisely into the jammed door slots and ventilation shafts of the base. The horrific explosions collapsed the exits, burying dozens of Iranian aircraft and drones inside the mountain. OGAV-44 base remained intact internally, but it had become a gigantic concrete prison. No aircraft could take off. No drones could be launched. The United States had not completely destroyed the Iranian military, and Iran still possessed thousands of missiles at other bases. But the strategic message was clear. The United States did not need to flatten the mountain to win. They just needed to render it useless by flipping a switch. The EA-37B Ghost Rider turned back towards Al Udeid Air Base at dawn, leaving behind a strangely silent battlefield. A large-scale hot war had been averted, but a new era of electronic warfare, where lines of code were more dangerous than explosives, had just begun. Iran's true panic was not about the loss of a base. It was because they realized the United States held the key to disabling their nervous system at any moment.